prosecution's first witness testified to a whole bunch of things that sound sleazy, but by definition aren't actual crimes. There aren't cameras in the courtroom, so I have to explain what David Pecker said. He's the old boss at the National Enquirer, a very dear friend of Donald Trump's. And he testified that there was what they call a catch and kill scheme. He and Trump's former fixer, Michael Cohen, would find out about people who planned to tell negative stories about Donald Trump and then kill the story. In one instance, Pecker says he bought a doorman's phony story that Trump had an illegitimate child. Pecker paid $30,000 for the exclusive rights and then buried the story. He says he paid Stormy Daniels $130 grand for her story. Prosecutors say another $150,000 went to Playboy model Karen McDougal. Okay, stipulated. All of those things happened. No one disputes that. New York City criminal defense attorney Michael DeSharo joins us now. How much of this is sex, lies, videotapes, Trump's terrible, so there must be a crime somewhere?
Thank you for having me, Leland. And that's exactly right. They started off their case with the sexiest things you could bring into the courtroom, right? I mean, most trials are boring. This is the facts of this trial are extremely boring. We're talking about an accounting procedure. So you bring in a porn star, you bring in the National Enquirer, you bring in illegitimate kids, and they're putting up all these things that have no bearing on proving the crime. It's simply a way to hopefully titillate the jury in framing the defendant, Donald Trump, as this sleazy guy who'll do anything to and cover it up to get away with it.
Yeah, and look, Michael, I have to say to our viewers, you've been spot on about this stuff all the way through, and we're trying to be fair here. And being fair means being fair to Donald Trump, but also being fair to the prosecution. And I've yet to find a lawyer who doesn't involve politics who makes the point that the prosecution's got a good case here. If there's any out there, you're welcome to come on and talk about it. And I think that kind of goes to what Mitt Romney said today. The senator, Republican senator, who does not like Donald Trump. Here he is.
I think everybody has made their own assessment of President Trump's character, and so far as I know, you don't pay someone $130,000 not to have sex with you.
And an issue here is not whether Stormy Daniels and Donald Trump had sex. An issue is whether or not it was accounted for correctly in the books of the Trump organization. Looking forward, if they're going to actually prove a crime was committed, what do they have to get to?
They have to get to the fact that this was put down in the accounting as an expense, and it was, most importantly, that Donald Trump himself, the defendant, they must prove beyond a reasonable doubt that he did it or that he ordered it to be done. Because nobody believes Donald Trump is himself entering numbers into a ledger. And the person that's supposed to get you there is Michael Cohen, a convicted perjurer. And in terms of fairness, Leland, I was a prosecutor for 6 years. I sat in those chairs. I argued to those juries. And publicly, I don't discuss politics, but I do discuss facts of the case. And every single legal expert that I've spoken to in New York City, regardless of their political stripes, thinks this is a very weak case. And the weakest part to me, and I can't wait for this, is going to be the testimony and cross of a known perjurer who every day is on the internet, on social media, attacking Donald Trump. Michael Cohen isn't just a liar. He's a anti-Trump fanatic. So it's going to be very easy to paint him as somebody who'll say anything about Donald Trump in order to get him convicted.
Just purely from a political standpoint, and we're going to get to the media coverage later in the show, but at some level, you'd almost think that the prosecution and Democrats at all are happy in a way that this isn't on TV. I was talking to one of the Trump spokespeople last night, and they said they wish it was on television. They wish the country could see this case unfold as it unfolds. When you get down to this argument right now, and you're watching this play out for the prosecution, where do we go in terms of sort of accuracy in reporting this going forward? You're a lawyer. Is it accurate to call this the hush money case? Because there was hush money paid? Or is it more accurate to call it the business records case because that's the crime he's charged with?
I think it's even more boring than that. You can call it there's a famous phrase in accounting that I once learned, LIFO FIFO. It's some kind of obscure accounting term. This is one of the most boring and one of the most unique cases that's ever been brought. I've never seen a misdemeanor whose statute of limitations has expired be raised from the dead and brought up to be a felony and get an indictment on that. So, but the Supreme Court of New York, what we call the Court of Appeals, has solved this in some way. You can now get the full transcript free of charge of the trial.
Thanks for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find News Nation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.